Watch how to make a table like this, and the best part is that you can make it any size and just about any finish you can think of. Let's get to it. Here's all the materials needed for this project. You will also need to know the measurement of the chairs you will be using to do this build. After measuring for the size we need 36 by 66, the first rip on the plywood is a little bigger than 36. Make it 36 1/4. You'll see why later. Then make 3 rips at 1.5 inches. Take the 3 pieces and set them to the side. For this piece, we need it at 66 inches, but the table saw only cuts to 52 inches. So measure 66 on the plywood. Put a mark. From that end is 66. Now measure from the other end to the line. It's 30 inches. Set the table saw to 30 inches and cut it off. Get the 1.5 inch rips, glue, and nails. Put it to the edge. Make sure the edge is flushed. Then mark the other end. Do both sides. Then cut it on the miter saw. Set it in place. Put glue on it. Spread it. Set it back in place. Make sure it's on the edge again. Flush it out. I got the brad nailer with 18 gauge 1.25 inch nails in it. Nail it on. Do the same for the ends. As I'm shooting it down, I'm feeling the sides, making sure it's flushed. This is what it's looking like so far. Now with the scrap pieces, I'm going to cut it in half and put one piece here and one there. That's what I'm going to attach my legs to. Cut it to length, 33.5. Now cut it in half. Attach it to where my legs are going to be. Glue it up and nail it down. Now I cut this a little oversized so I can run it through the saw again. I'm going to cut a little bit off each side. Now I'll know for sure the edges is flush. The same for the other side. Just take a little off. This will only work for the sides. The ends I'll have to sand. On this end, it's sticking out a little. The belt sander works best to sand this down. Make sure you hold the sander flat against the edge when using it. You'll see why this is important later. Check it here and there. What you're checking for is to make sure one piece is not past the other. It needs to be flushed. Blow the dust off or use a wet rag to take off the dust. Now it's ready for laminate. Here's the roll of laminate. This was $100 from Wilson Art. This is a 4x8 sheet. They sell sheets that's 5x12 as well. This is the thin sheet. They sell a little thicker one. Here's what it's looking like. Because this is a marble finish look, I will have to cut it a certain way. I have to make it appear as if it's one solid piece. You can get laminate in just about any kind of finish you can think of. Contact a distributor and ask them to send you sample chips so you can pick something you like. The name and the model number should be on the back of the chip. They have all kinds of finish that you can think of. Okay, now to get the one solid piece look, the pattern on the sides needs to line up with the pattern on the top. This is how to cut the laminate to achieve that look. Cut all your pieces at least a 1/2 inch larger than what you need. You'll need the overhang on all your pieces. You got 2 inches for the sides, 1 inch for overhang, 66 inches for the top, another inch for the overhang, then 2 inches for the side. I'll cut this out just to make it smaller. This will make it a little bit more manageable to cut. Here's a pro tip. Make something like this to cut the laminate on. This will keep the laminate from going under the fence when you're cutting it. Set this in place and the sheet can sit on top of it. I cut it to length. Now I'll do the same thing for the width. 2 inches for the sides, 1 inch of overhang, 36 inches for the top, another inch of overhang, then 2 inches for the sides. This will be scrap. I'll cut this part out first again, just to make it more manageable when cutting it. Cut out the scrap. Cut the 2-inch side. Turn it around. Cut the other 2-inch side. Here's what the pattern on the side piece and the top should look like. Now cut out the ends. Before you do, it helps to label the pieces. A, B with B. Cut and label your pieces like this. Now to glue the laminate on. The first pieces you want to glue on are the sides. The reason you want to do the sides first is because when someone slides something off the table, it can get snagged. If someone spills something, the liquid will go into the seam and damage the table. So do the sides first, then overlap the top. That will eliminate the potential of something getting snagged and water from going in the seam. Now make sure you have an overhang on both ends. Make sure you have the right piece in place. B with B. Line the pattern up. Once it's in position, put a pencil mark here with a square. Put another pencil mark with the square. Bring this to the edge and line it up with my lines. Then put a tape to hold it in place. With the masking tape on it, I'll be able to flip my piece over and glue it up. When you put this on too, you want it to overhang all around, like this. Get the throwaway brush. Here's the contact cement glue. How it works is you put glue on both sides, let it dry, then apply it again. I like to do at least 2 coats. When it gets tacky, flip it over and stick it together. Be careful when putting it together because it sticks pretty good. Once it touches, you might not be able to take it off to reposition it without breaking it, so be careful. Okay, see it's dry. I'm going to give it another coat. It's ready now, nice and tacky. Flip it over. I'm using a putty knife just to take any air pockets out. This is what the edge looks like. Overhang is good. The router will cut all the overhang off. For all this extra glue, I'm going to use a putty knife to take some of it off. Now it's time to use the router. Make sure you wear safety glasses. This is a small hand router. This is the kind of bit we'll be using. The end is a ball shape that lets the bit ride along the edge. The notch in it is what actually does the cutting. You want to set it up where the notch is sticking up a little past the platform, like this. Now route the overhanging edges. This does leave a sharp edge, but don't sand it yet. Line back up your guidelines and make sure your patterns still line up. Now extend the guidelines to the back of the laminate with the square. Pull the laminate about 5 inches. Then line up the guidelines from underneath the laminate this time. Pulling the laminate over will give you working room on the other side. For this side, I'm going to put masking tape first. That way I won't have much glue to clean off. Lay the other 2-inch piece next to it and line up the pattern. When it's lined up, put 2 more guidelines on it. Temporarily attach the side piece with tape. Add glue. I added 2 more coats to this. When it's tacky, attach it. Make sure you have an overhang all around the piece. It's stuck. Remove the tape. Use the putty knife again. Be careful doing this on the corners. If you push too hard, you will snap it, so be careful at the ends. Take the tape off. And yeah, that's so much better. Less cleaning. Route it. Clean the debris off. Put guidelines on the back end. Line up all 4 guidelines. Now put more guidelines on the ends. One here, make it come down like this. I walked around to make sure all my marks still lines up. It's good. Now I can put my guide marks. Tape it up. Add glue. I added 2 more coats to this. Take the tape off. Route it. When you come to routing the edge, the router likes to leave a mark, so you can apply a lube or use masking tape to prevent the mark. Do the same for the other side. At this time, only sand the bottom and the corners. Do not sand the top edge. Use mineral spirits to clean off the glue all around. Put my guidelines back on. Flip the table and clean the glue off. Flip the table back. Use a belt sander to sand off the glue. You don't have to use a belt sander. I just find it takes the glue off faster. Just make sure you keep it flat, especially around the edges. Blow the dust off. Before attaching the top, remember to match up your letters. A with A, B with B. Lay the laminate down on top of it, back side up. Make sure your edges hang over all the way around. Get your small paint roller and glue. Pour the glue and spread it. Now move the laminate to the side. Do the same thing on the wood. You don't see it in the video, but I let it dry some, then added a second coat along the edges. When the glue dries, put some kind of metal rods or dowels in it like this. Space them about 1 inch apart. I'm not sure where I got these rods from, but I saved them for this reason. The thinner rods are ceiling grid support hangers. I cut them down to 24 inches for this as well. You can also use metal coat hangers and stagger them like this. This will keep it from touching, and you can position the laminate where it needs to be. Once you have it in place, you can remove the rods one by one. I have them sticking out and staggered because they're not long enough to stick out through the other side, and I'm going to need to pull the rods out. Now that this is set up, I can carefully put the laminate on top. Look for my lines and line them up. Our lines are lined up. When it's good, start pulling out the rods. Start at one end, working your way to the other. As you pull the rods out, smooth out the laminate, removing any air pockets. When they're all out, use a flat piece of wood and a mallet to lightly tap on it. Now take some lube and put it all around the table, around here. Again, this is so the router doesn't leave a mark. Route it out. Put it on a solid surface and take the wood and mallet and beat on it. Do this all around the surface. Sand the edges and clean any remaining glue off. You could use mineral spirits or lacquer thinner. You're done with the laminate. See how the pattern continues down the sides? Yeah, it's looking good. Now I want to reinforce the table. I don't want it to bow down when somebody puts some weight on the table. To do that, I'm going to add 2 of these. This is a 16 by 3/4 by 3/4 aluminum corner bead. It costs $12 each at Ace. I'm going to cut it to length, and I'm also going to use the rest of the scrap wood. I'm going to put a piece here and here, then attach the aluminum to that. I cut the aluminum to length. Now I'm grinding the sharp edges off. Cut the wood to length. Check the fit. It's good. Put glue. Then nail it. I'm going to set the aluminum like this. That way I don't have to worry about screws going through the other side when I screw it down. Mark where I'm going to pre-drill my holes. Drill my holes. Now I'm going to use 3/4 wood screws to attach it to the wood. Here are the legs I'll be putting on. You can make similar legs out of 2x4, which would be a lot cheaper, but my daughter wanted these, so. To install the legs, you first need to know what configuration you'll be setting your chairs. Then you will know where you can put your legs. You can configure the chairs like this, where the chairs are side by side, or do you prefer the chair on each side of the table? We'll be going with this configuration here. The next thing you want to do is find the center of the table. Once you have that, measure out for the chairs. Then you can know where to put your legs. Once you know where you can put your legs, you'll have to find the center of the ends of the table and the center of the legs. Put a mark on both. Then line it up. I already put a mark on where my legs needed to be. Once it's in place, you can screw it down. I'm going to use regular 1¼ inch drywall screws. These holes are kind of large, so I'm also going to be using a washer. Here are the adjustable feet for the legs. If you want to leave the foot this high, you'll have to put this nut all the way down, then tighten it. I'm going to put it all the way down. So here's what the table looks like completed. Here's a little extra bonus thing I made out of the remaining laminate and wood. It looks good on a black mat. Here's the finished product. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for me. Until next time, peace.